Hi there, I'm Dr. Annette Childs, and I want to welcome you back to Office Hours. Last time we were here, I talked a little bit about symbolic language and how we can learn to listen to the nudges that the interactive universe might be sending our way. As I discussed my own ongoing conversations with the universe, I mentioned how I tend to get yelled at rather than nudged when something is important and really requires attention in my life. And I used the example of having avoided a car accident as a teenager when I got that stern kind of warning from my spiritual guidance system. We also talked about the quieter messages and how much harder those are to listen to. Learning to listen to the subtle messages that our energetic system is sending to us is probably one of the most important spiritual tools that I have, and it's certainly what I am most passionate about teaching my clients. So many times we look back at the bad experiences that we've had in our lives, and we use the term hindsight is 20/20, which is usually indicative that we did sense that something was amiss, but we never acted on it. There's a quote that I love that really sums up the philosophy that I want to talk about today. And this is that quote: "Everything teaches, not everyone learns." And the non-learners, well, I think they're often people who don't carry a lesson from the past with them into the future. And they may simply ignore the living lessons that the universe teaches all of us every single day. Now, we all know that listening skills are a very important part of any successful relationship. And when it comes to our relationship with the interactive universe, the same thing holds true. So in the next few sessions of Office Hours, we're going to discuss ways that you can learn to be a better listener when it comes to the symbolic language that the universe is always putting out. Now, I've said this before, but I'm going to keep saying it. I use the word universe because it works for me. When I say interactive universe, in my world, what that means, it means all my angels, my guides, the ascended masters that I believe are always watching over humanity and working to help us. And it also means source energy or God. As I'm speaking and I use that phrase, interactive universe, or sometimes just universe, if that's not your word, or if that word causes you to shut down or close off in any way, replace my word with your word. Whoever and whatever you trust and feel benevolence and goodness from, call out to that. Okay? There is no wrong answer here, and you certainly don't need to match my vocabulary. So back to our topic. There are lots of ways to sharpen our listening skills with the universe, and for today we are just going to explore one of those, and I call it the Body Barometer. Well, you may be thinking, I've never heard of that. Don't have one. Well, we all have one. Even if you think you don't, trust me, you do. To get a sense of how your body barometer works, I want to delve into the world of peer-reviewed research just a little bit. Because when it comes to what I call your body barometer and your spiritual GPS system, it's all right there in black and white in the hard sciences. So we don't have to work off my anecdotal stories or my theories. Science documents this very, very well. One of the things that we know to be true on the basis of scientific study is that the mind and the brain are not the same thing. Our brains are physical organs that exist in our physical bodies. They usually weigh about 3 pounds, and they're full of tangles and fibers and nerves, and they sit here in our skull. The mind exists in the electromagnetic field that is all around us and around our brain. Now, the electromagnetic field is real. It's something that can be measured, and it's one of the ways that medicine decides that there is life or no life within a body. So when we hear the term brain dead, what we're being told is that there is no longer an electrical or magnetic charge coming from the brain. In the field of consciousness studies, it's believed that within that field of energy that exists around the brain, that's the mind, and that's actually where human consciousness exists. And again, this isn't just opinion. There is plenty of science that shows that the mind exists outside of the brain. An example of this are the studies that have been carried out at the Institute of Noetic Sciences by a scientist named Dr. Dean Radin. Now, what he has shown us is that the mind, that electromagnetic field outside of the brain, is able to perceive and interpret information before it ever even gets to the brain. Dr. Radin's studies looked at subjects who in a lab were hooked up to machines that measured their skin conductance levels. Now, skin conductance is like a lie detector that shows whether a person is feeling a stress response or not. So in this study, the participants were put in front of a computer screen that was generating two types of pictures, either very relaxing, calm, or neutral scenes, or highly emotional or disturbing scenes. And all of the subjects were hooked up to these skin conductors through the entire testing process. And when they were shown disturbing pictures, their skin responded as it was expected to. And when they were shown neutral or calm pictures, the skin conductivity did not increase at all. So both of these things were expected. So no surprise there. But what was a surprise, and a very consistent surprise at that, was the fact that some people's bodies reacted to whatever picture was coming up to 6 seconds before they ever saw it. So the mind saw what was coming and prompted the body to react appropriately 6 seconds before the brain ever even had a chance to process it. So that right there is the body barometer that I'm talking about today in action. We all have one, but learning how to use it in our life is an art and a skill that may not come naturally to everyone. Granted, some people are just wired to have a more sensitive body barometer, but everyone can learn this skill. Now, the premise behind the body barometer is that your mind perceives the information before your brain ever has it. And this information that your mind can perceive, it's very holistic information, meaning that your mind is able to take into account information that is energetic, intuitive, and even predictive of the future. So an example of this from my own life about the precision of how the body barometer works is an event that happened to me decades ago. I was at a group barbecue with dozens of other families interacting in a park, and my family was there as well. And all of these families were new to us, so we didn't know anyone in that group. At one point, one of my children, who was about 25 feet away from me, called out to me to ask to help me get her out of the swing. As I looked up to find her and to respond to what she was saying, someone who was standing right next to that swing set and observed her request to me gently lifted her out of the swing and placed her onto the ground, where she proceeded to happily run my way. In that moment, my body barometer went off the charts. My heart raced, I felt chilled, even though it was a hot summer day, and even though this person had not done anything inappropriate. My body barometer was screaming, danger, danger, danger. Now, logically, my sensations made no sense at all. There was nothing wrong with what had just occurred, but my body barometer said differently. Now, without divulging personal details, suffice it to say that time eventually revealed that my mind that day in the park was correctly seeing and interpreting a future that had not yet occurred. In fact, that future was years and years away. And even though we rarely to never interacted with this individual, years later, they were the source of great pain and hardship in my family. And that day in the park, my mind was sensing it, and it sent signals to my body that gave me a heads up about it. So you might ask, could I have listened that day in the park and changed my life to avoid the pain and the destruction that eventually came? And my honest answer is, I simply don't know. There's a fine line between free will and destiny. And with experiences such as this, I try not to focus on the what ifs and instead try to focus on the gratitude. Gratitude that my inner guidance is so strong and so on point, and that the interactive universe, my guides, my angels, they were energetically kicking up dust in this person's presence years before that person brought an actual storm into my life. So that's kind of a dramatic example of the body barometer. But there are dozens of times in a day that my body barometer serves me and helps me. Things as simple as knowing when my email chimes on my phone, whether what has just arrived into my inbox is significant or just spam. Meaningful emails just sound different to me, even though the chime is the same regardless of the source of the email. And I wouldn't say I have 100% accuracy with this, but I would say I probably have 75% accuracy. And when I meet a stranger who I end up having a positive soul connection with, I can usually feel the seeds of that stirring here in my solar plexus area long before the blooms ever happen in the outside world. Now, the point of all of this is this. It's really important to learn how to work with your body barometer, to understand the language that it's speaking, and when you can, to begin living your life in accordance to the messages that your body barometer is sending. Because, as I always say, when we reach toward the interactive universe, it always reaches back. The more we tune into our body barometer, the easier it is to begin living an intuitive and guided life. I'm Dr. Annette Childs. Thanks for joining me here today at Office Hours. We'll continue this conversation next time as we explore how to become more fluent in the symbolic language that exists all around us.